Melissa Westbrook, Ricky Malone.
Good evening. I'd like to speak to both the performance management policy as well as the NTN contract. As to performance management as part of the upcoming teacher contract negotiations, I would like to thank the board for listening to the Seattle Organizers Coalition and our efforts to support a community engagement process. The teacher's contract affects every aspect of our child's school day. We hope you will stay the course with our efforts. We believe you should hear ongoing public testimony before and during the negotiations. Now on to NTN. A couple of things to point out first from the motion itself. It says, under this project-based learning approach, teachers design rigorous projects tied to state and district standards. And that sounds really good except for the actual contract, and I paraphrase here. The district agrees and will direct its employees and agents to assign to NTN, upon the request of NTN, all right, title, and interest of district in any new materials. And that means that no teacher in any other high school could use projects developed at Cleveland unless we license them from NTN. I'm sure any of our possible partnerships with UW and Microsoft will be interested in that part of the contract. And this for the contract that I am sure will be of interest to the SEA. School principal will have significant autonomy from involuntary or undesirable transfers from other schools. Plus, of course, NTN gets an advisory role in picking the principal. Are you sure we're paying them? Because it sure sounds like they're in the driver's seat. Also, when staff did an NTN presentation, they were trying to contrast it with other available services. One was Edutopia, which is George Lucas's, that would be Star Wars, George Lucas's educational foundation. They don't do any kind of selling of services. They give out information. So why was it used for a comparison? I have said at the Save Seattle Schools blog, I think STEM is a wonderful idea, but it's a big idea that needs time and resources and partnerships. Before this meeting, Secondary VOC gave a wonderful presentation about how they want to evolve. The board was very impressed. Director Martin Morris said, this is the model for how we should run projects like this. Director Patu said, you got the community in from the beginning. Contrast that with STEM. You need parents and students to believe this is a solid program, but you have little to back it up. The funding is and continues to be cobbled together. LAP money is going to STEM, so please at least own that. And where are the partners for STEM at Cleveland? I want to get behind this project and believe in it, but the restrictive nature of the contract, the secrecy behind the contract, the lack of engagement on the contract, and the fact that this district is racing to get everything done does not bode well for STEM at Cleveland. That's not being a naysayer, that is pointing out the obvious.
Thank you, Ms. Westbrook.
Ricky Malone. I'm here to talk on the STEM schools, but before I get to that, I find something very interesting with the Northwest Evaluation Association and how that oversees the MAP, which is a district-wide assessment, which is costing us a lot of money. And it was surprising to me to see the superintendent's name on their board. Mr. DeBell, I did receive the message this morning from whoever it was you had called me to tell me that I needed to stick to the subject that I signed up for, because, you know, 3 times out I haven't done that, and if I do it again, then I won't be allowed to speak unless there's room at the end under general. Well, if y'all wouldn't make me mad on the way down here most times, I would be able to speak to the subject. I don't like being threatened. It's just not part of my personality. So you ruined my morning. And then I come here and look at the testimony, public testimony. I'm a rules person. I love rules because I know what to do. And then I also know that if I don't follow it, what the consequences are going to be. So there's 2 of us here tonight, the president of the union and the little person, me, that are confused about what the rules are. And I think if you're going to hold people to your rules, that you really should have them part of the public testimony. But anyway, getting to STEM. I think STEM is another racist tactic to deal with minority-empowered schools for whatever reason you want to do it. My concern is Cleveland right now has a majority of minority students. What's going to happen to those children in that neighborhood? I've heard that kids will be grandparented through or grandfathered through. So what's going to be the ninth graders that are coming in? What do they have to do in order to get into this STEM school? Nobody's ever going to talk about that. I even heard school board members ask that question. And nobody said, well, you know, we're going to have a lottery system, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. You know, because of the school closures and other things that have happened to children of color in this district, I hope everybody is awake on this one. I do not understand where the Urban League is, the NAACP, churches of color, haven't come down here and said, y'all better stop it. Because that's what needs to be done. Y'all better stop it. I think if we're going to go with this STEM school thing, that we should have some schools in the South End that are STEM elementary schools that feed into it.
Thank you, Ms. Malone. We have one speaker.